Zazoo. In 2004, a Belgian condom brand called Zazoo released a short television commercial that spread rapidly online. It opened in a supermarket. A father is shopping with his young son. The boy spots candy at the checkout and wants it. The father says no. The child collapses into a full screaming meltdown, thrashing on the floor, completely inconsolable. The father stands there, defeated. A single line of text appears on screen. Use condoms. The ad was shared millions of times and banned in several markets. Many viewers assumed it was a parody or a prank video. Others assumed it had been pulled immediately after one broadcast. The ad was entirely real and intentional. Zazoo was a Belgian contraceptive brand with a limited budget. Rather than advertising the product directly, the creative team built the entire campaign around a single implied argument that this moment, this specific supermarket meltdown, was preventable. The Advertising Standards Authority received formal complaints for implying children are a burden. Zazoo did not withdraw the ad voluntarily. It was banned. The brand argued it was simply being honest. The ad never needed wide television distribution. It spread entirely through early internet sharing, years before brands understood that banning a commercial could function as a second and larger launch. Little Baby's Ice Cream. In 2012, a small ice cream company based in Philadelphia released a promotional video online. It showed a humanoid figure sitting at a table. The figure appeared to be made entirely of ice cream. It stared directly into the camera without blinking, without speaking. Then it slowly raised a spoon and began eating itself, scooping from its own head and consuming it calmly, methodically, with complete stillness. A gentle jingle played underneath. The video was never intended for television. It was uploaded to YouTube. Within days, it had been shared hundreds of thousands of times. Most people who encountered it described feeling genuinely disturbed. Many said they could not explain exactly why. The ad was made intentionally this way. Little Baby's Ice Cream was a local Philadelphia brand with no significant marketing budget. The creative team understood that conventional ice cream advertising, bright colors, happy families, summer imagery, would be invisible at their scale. Instead, they built something that felt wrong. The figure never threatened anyone. The music was pleasant. The action was simply a product enjoying its own product. Nothing in the video violated any broadcasting standard because nothing in it was explicitly harmful. It was never banned. It was never pulled. It spread entirely because it unsettled people enough that they needed to show it to someone else. The brand later described it as the most effective marketing they ever produced. The video cost almost nothing to make. Xbox. In 2002, Microsoft launched the original Xbox in Europe with a television commercial called Life is Short. It opened in a hospital maternity ward. A baby is born. The doctor holds it up. The baby launches out of his hands like a rocket, flying through the hospital window at full speed, aging visibly mid-air, shooting across fields and cities and suburbs, growing from infant to child to teenager to adult to elderly man in a matter of seconds, before slamming face first into a freshly dug grave at full velocity. The tagline appeared, "Life is short, play more." The Advertising Standards Authority banned it almost immediately. The grounds were that it was likely to cause distress and was unsuitable for general broadcast. Microsoft pulled it without significant pushback. The ad had already done its work. It circulated widely online in the early days of internet video sharing, becoming one of the first commercials to achieve what would later be called viral distribution. It was genuinely funny to one audience and genuinely upsetting to another, which is more or less the definition of effective edge advertising. The creative team behind it never formally apologized. They didn't need to. Everyone had already seen it. Grim Reaper. In 1987, the Australian government launched a public health campaign about AIDS that remains, by most measures, the most confrontational public health advertisement ever broadcast on national television. It opened with a bowling alley. The Grim Reaper, full hood, full scythe, rolled a bowling ball down the lane. The pins were people, men, women, children. They flew into the air on impact. The voiceover explained that AIDS was not a disease confined to any one group, that anyone could get it, that it killed. The ad ran during prime time. Children saw it. Families saw it together. The complaints were immediate and significant. Many Australians described being genuinely terrified. Some called it traumatizing. Health authorities defended it on the grounds that the previous campaigns had failed to change behavior. The public had decided AIDS was someone else's problem. The Grim Reaper ad made it everyone's problem by design. HIV testing rates increased in Australia following the campaign. The ad is now taught in public health programs globally as a case study in fear-based messaging, when it works, why it works, and what it costs the audience to make it work. Tango. In 1991, a British soft drink called Tango released a television ad that became one of the most talked about commercials in UK advertising history. A man drinks a can of orange Tango on a beach. Immediately, a large bald man painted entirely orange sprints across the sand and slaps both hands hard against the drinker's ears. The tagline, "You know when you've been tangoed." Children loved it. They started recreating it at school, running up behind classmates and slapping both ears simultaneously. The move ruptured eardrums. The ASA received reports of hearing damage in children. Tango pulled the ad and recut it, replacing the slap with an orange man kissing the drinker on both cheeks, which satisfied nobody aesthetically, but stopped the injuries. The campaign continued under the same tagline for years. It is one of the cleaner examples in advertising history of a commercial being so effective that the audience physically performed it, with consequences nobody modeled in the pitch meeting. Kane and Lynch. In 2007, video game publisher Eidos released Kane and Lynch, Dead Men. They bought significant advertising space on GameSpot, one of the largest gaming review sites in the world. GameSpot's editorial team reviewed the game and gave it a 6 out of 10, a mediocre score for a heavily marketed release. Shortly after the review published, Jeff Gerstmann, GameSpot's editorial director and the reviewer who wrote it, was fired. Eidos denied applying pressure. GameSpot's parent company, Honet, denied the firing was connected to the review. Gerstmann was under a non-disclosure agreement and said nothing publicly for years. The story spread through gaming forums and blogs within 48 hours. The advertising industry and gaming press treated it as an open secret. In 2012, Gerstmann confirmed publicly that the firing was directly related to the review and the advertiser's dissatisfaction with it. By that point, he had founded his own independent review site, Giant Bomb, funded without advertising from game publishers. The Kane and Lynch ad campaign was not unusual. What was unusual was that someone documented what it cost. Benetton's shock doctrine. Throughout the 1980s and 90s, Italian clothing brand Benetton ran a global campaign designed by photographer Oliviero Toscani that had almost nothing to do with clothing. The ads showed a man dying of AIDS, surrounded by family, directly referencing a famous Pieta image. They showed a black woman breastfeeding a white infant. They showed a newborn still attached to an umbilical cord. They showed death row inmates with their case details. One ad showed blood-soaked clothing from a Bosnian soldier killed in the war, with his name still on the tag. His family had not been informed the image would be used. They were understandably furious. Benetton's position, consistently, was that advertising space was public space, and public space could carry real content. The Vatican condemned the AIDS ad. Several countries banned multiple campaigns. Sales in some markets dropped. Sales in others increased. The campaign ran for over a decade. Toscani later said the point was never to sell sweaters. Benetton's counter-argument was that controversy was itself a form of honesty. Whether using a dead soldier's uniform as marketing material qualifies as honesty remains genuinely contested. Magic. In 1978, a horror film called Magic was released starring Anthony Hopkins. The studio hired advertising legend David Niven Jr. to produce the trailer. What they made was 60 seconds of a ventriloquist dummy, named Fats, speaking directly to camera while Hopkins sat silently in the background. The dummy's voice was calm. It asked the viewer if they could keep a secret. It said it could. Then it smiled. No music, no jump cuts, no horror movie conventions. Just a puppet talking in a quiet room. The trailer was pulled from television in several U.S. markets after the network received viewer complaints, not about content, but because people said it was causing nightmares and their children refused to sleep. A television station in one documented case stopped airing it mid-run after calls flooded in during a single evening. Hopkins later said the dummy disturbed him throughout filming. The film itself was well reviewed. The trailer is now studied in film marketing courses not for what it showed but for what it didn't. It contained no violence, no blood, and no explanation. Just sustained dread, delivered through a wooden face that never blinked.